being immersed into a totally, Western culture, and then this is the first experience you have within the family. The chances of failure, as a person. And I always tell, we have a lot of young college students that came to our church, and what I desire of them is really, you may value yourself in terms of your performance, but let me tell you, it's your character. It's your character, that really counts at the end, right?
You have to look at your past to plan for the future. And a lot of times when people or communities are planning for the future, there's a lot of voices left out. And that, for me, is a passion for me about participatory planning, that we need to get all the stakeholders' voices. And you can't just assume like one person from one group is going to think the same thing as another person in that same group. So it's really about that really targeted outreach and investment in the process to really get into the outcomes. Because I think that's what plays into the injustices today. Some of our voices were never heard in the planning of cities and communities, and therefore we're struggling with that. So include us, and we can be part of the solution.
Do you think that more often you're kind of easily able to get out of bed and just charge forward and be optimistic, or do you?
If you meet my students, you would want to work with them. I got a great staff that I work with. They're tremendous. They have heart of gold. They love working with the students, and the student will energize you. If you meet some of these students, they're incredible. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why I stay with them and I work with them, because these are students that have some disabilities, and every day to them is a new day, and it could be a challenge, and they get up. So we meet them where they are, and they are a kick to work with. The stories that staff can tell on the little successes, the big successes, it's incredible. It really is a joy to work with them. And that's why we do what we do.
I'm going to say what she used to call me.
Sure.
She would call me a Jap and a creepy crawly and tell everybody that we were going to have ugly children.
Oh, no.
And even Aunt Georgia, she would write her and going, I cannot believe you say these things. And she goes, and Aunt Georgia goes, you never raised us to be that way. Deep down, I think she was just a mean woman. I don't think she was racist. She just used the superficial language to be cruel, because she was a cruel woman.
Grab whatever could, use whatever weapon is sharp enough.
So when she started being kind to us enough, that my biggest thing was, as long as she didn't make my children feel any less, it was all that I cared about. And she did it. They did a good job. They were kind. She came around.
Initially, when I first saw that poster, it was so painful because we didn't know anything about the people. We didn't know. When I first read the names, which was only a couple of years ago, I thought, oh my God, that's my history. I worked at the University of Oregon for 36 years. These are my students. Yeah. These are my alumni. These are my friends. And that's when it became real. And, like you, it was such a painful thing to look at, because I was going up to special collections to see what the university did to or for these students. And I had worked there 30 years. What if they just called the FBI and turned them in? What did they do? But they did. I found out they did this magnificent effort. They got them all to other universities and schools.
And he said, just read it. And so we started to read it. And we said, oh no, we can't afford to either buy it or to, you cannot, just take it back then, because we don't have anything. We put everything in to
the
buy
property, right?
Just the restaurant.
Just the restaurant.
You're
Running the restaurant.
Ourselves. And so he said, just read it. So when we read it, I can't help it, that when we read it and it said paid in full. So, I mean, even to this day, we have never met this person. She's a lady, and she comes in all the time, but we never know who she was. And she felt like she asked the banker, she said, when I pass away, then please make sure that this thing is paid in full. So the business was all paid up.
What a
That's-
blessing. What an act of service.